Welcome to our discussion on the sixth learner-centered psychological principle, the context of learning. Let's explore how various environmental factors influence how we learn. This is quite long, so please bear in mind to listen carefully and try as much as possible to absorb the meaning of this principle. Learning doesn't happen in isolation. It's influenced by a variety of factors, including culture, technology, and instructional practices. Technologies and instructional practices must be appropriate for learners' level of prior knowledge, cognitive abilities, and their learning and thinking strategies. The classroom environment, particularly the degree to which it is nurturing or not, can also have significant impacts on student learning. Teachers play a crucial role by interacting not only with the learner but also with the learning environment. These interactions significantly impact the learning process. This is very true also to this statement: if students find their lessons relevant to their lives, they learn more effectively. It simply means that we teachers must, and as much as possible, relate every lessons we teach inside the classroom to their lives so that they will find its relevance. For example, in an elementary math class, the teacher uses examples that are familiar and relevant to the students' everyday lives to teach mathematical concepts. For instance, when introducing fractions, the teacher uses examples like slicing a pizza, sharing candies among friends, or dividing a bar of chocolate. The teacher also encourages students to bring their own examples from their daily experiences to discuss in class. As mentioned earlier, learning is influenced by environmental factors, including culture. Cultural or group influences on students can impact many educationally relevant variables such as motivation, orientation toward learning, and ways of thinking. Cultural or group influences refer to the values, beliefs, norms, and practices that individuals learn from their families, communities, and social groups. These influences shape how students view the world, including their attitudes toward education and learning. For motivation, culture can deeply influence what motivates a student. For example, in some cultures, education is highly valued, and students may be motivated to succeed academically to bring honor to their families. In contrast, other cultural backgrounds might emphasize practical skills over formal education, affecting students' motivation to engage in traditional academic settings. Next, for orientation towards learning, the way students approach learning tasks can also be shaped by their cultural background. For instance, in some cultures, collaboration and group learning are emphasized, leading students to thrive in group projects. In others, individual achievement and competition might be more valued, influencing students to focus more on personal success. And lastly, for ways of thinking, cultural influences can also affect cognitive processes, such as how students solve problems or understand concepts. For example, students from cultures that value storytelling might excel in narrative-based learning, while those from cultures with a strong emphasis on logical reasoning might perform better in structured, analytical tasks. For its practical implications to education. As educators, it's essential to recognize and respect these cultural differences to create an inclusive learning environment. By understanding the diverse cultural backgrounds of students, teachers can tailor their instructional methods to align with students' motivations and preferred ways of learning. This can help in making education more effective and meaningful for each student, ultimately enhancing their overall academic performance and engagement. Aside from culture, it's also mentioned that learning is influenced by environmental factors such as technology and instructional practices. Technology and instructional practices should be aligned with students' prior knowledge, cognitive abilities, and their learning and thinking strategies to be effective. Lastly, the classroom environment also influences learning. A nurturing atmosphere can enhance learning, while a non-nurturing one can hinder it. The comfort and readiness of students to learn are directly affected by their environment. For teachers, this means being aware of cultural and group influences on their students, selecting technologies and instructional practices that are appropriate for their learners, and creating a classroom environment that supports learning. For students, understanding how their environment affects their learning is essential. Seek out environments that support your learning goals and be aware of how culture and technology influence your learning process. Students should also consider the saying, "Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you your future." The statement "Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you your future" relates to Principle 6, Context of Learning, which emphasizes the influence of environmental factors, including social interactions, on learning. This principle highlights that students' learning and development are shaped not only by what happens in the classroom but also by the broader social context, including their relationships in peer groups. Friends and social circles significantly impact students' motivation, attitudes, and behaviors toward learning. For instance, if a student is surrounded by friends who value education and have positive learning habits, they are more likely to adopt similar attitudes and behaviors, which can lead to academic success and a promising future. Conversely, negative influences from peers can lead to disengagement from learning and less favorable outcomes. In essence, the people students associate with can play a pivotal role in shaping their attitudes, behaviors, and ultimately, their future, aligning closely with the idea that learning is influenced by social and cultural contexts. In conclusion, learning is shaped by the context in which it occurs. By recognizing the factors that influence your learning environment, you can create conditions that support more effective learning. Thank you for watching. Remember, understanding the context of learning is key to creating an environment that fosters success.